Hi guys, it's SimLicy here, so welcome to another speed build. So today I am sharing something a little bit different, and it's actually a motel build, which I am super excited to share with you guys. I think this build turned out so cool, and it was just so much fun to do. It's in this retro kind of mid-century style. Now I'm not sure if it's mid-century necessarily, but I used a lot of the furniture that came with Get Famous that are in that style, and I'm just so in love with this build, so I hope you guys will like it too. But of course, let me know what you guys think. So it is kind of funny because when I did my 50,000 subscriber special, I got a question asking whether or not I'd be willing to build a motel in the game that was kind of like Motel 6. Now this isn't modeled after Motel 6 necessarily, but it does kind of remind me of one. And when I first read that question, I didn't think I'd be doing a build like this at least anytime soon, because we don't actually have functioning motels in the game, and hopefully we'll get them eventually. But the more I thought about that idea, the more I kind of just fell in love with it and thought it'd be such a fun addition to the save file. And I really did enjoy playtesting this lot. I ran it as a pool, which worked pretty well, and that's what I'll upload it to the gallery as, because there were so many Sims visiting the lot and there just seemed like there was so much activity going on and that it was really lively. So I think that's what it's going to function as best. You could also run it as a bar because there's also a bar on the lot. And then I think you could probably run it as a couple other things. You could even run it as a generic lot, but then I'm not sure if a bunch of Sims would necessarily show up. I think a park would also be another good thing to upload it as, but then you would have to include some sort of playground equipment. And I didn't do that, but you could of course change that for your own gameplay. But a pool seemed to work perfectly. Everyone was like playing in the pool. There's some chess tables around. Sims were using those. And then there's of course the bar. And then I did include a couple of food stalls. Now my Sim did have to hire the bartender and the attendants to work the food stands. Unfortunately, they didn't just show up automatically, and I wish they would, but yeah, it does cost 100 simoleons, but you can of course just give that money back to your Sims if you would like to. And yeah, it just seemed to work really well. So I was really pleased with the result and really pleased with the way this whole structure came together. I think it just looks really cool and it looks so out of date, and I think it blends into Del Sol Valley really nicely. There's even buildings off in the distance that look like they're supposed to be motels themselves, so I feel like that works really nicely. And I've been just kind of confused what I was going to do with this lot, because it looks like there's 3 driveways, so it looks like it's supposed to have several houses on it. And I kind of wish that we would have got this neighborhood with a lot more smaller lots, just really close together, so we could have kind of made the neighborhood blend in a little bit more, rather than having these houses with these huge yards or really big houses, because I don't think they really fit into this neighborhood. But I feel like this works pretty well, and I like the way it looks in this neighborhood, so I'm very excited to hear what you guys have to say about it. But as you guys can see, I'm sort of trying to figure out where the staircases are going to go, because I wasn't sure if I was going to put them in the front or if I was going to make like these hallways, because a lot of motels that I've stayed at have these like hallway corridors that have like vending machines, they have ashtrays and trash cans and those kinds of things, maybe a place to sit down, and I felt like this would just make it look really realistic. And thankfully with Get to Work, we have functioning vending machines and they work perfectly. Your Sims can buy like soda, sandwich, and I think like pastries or something out of them. So that works really nicely, and I was pretty excited about that. So I put vending machines all over the place. And like I said, there is a couple of food stalls, so your Sims can get food that way. And then there's of course the bar, which has tons of food options as well. But another thing I wanted to include was like a lobby entryway where your Sims could get like their complimentary breakfast with their room. So what I included in there was a microwave and a coffee pot, so your Sims could go get some coffee and microwave anything that they needed to, because I think some of the food that you pull out of the vending machine, like the pastry, needs to be microwaved. I'm not exactly sure if that's correct, but that's how I think it works. And then this was another thing that I wanted to include, kind of like this drive-up area where your Sims could pull up, go check to see if there's vacancy or how much the rooms are, or just check in really quickly and then go on to their room. So I thought this was a really nice addition. And then there's of course the parking lot around this side. I wanted to include more parking spaces because there's quite a few rooms in this build. I forget how many exactly, but there's a lot of rooms and not really as many parking spaces that make sense, but oh well, that's not really that big of a deal. It still looks really nice. And I do get questions every once in a while when I use the cars. They are just statues, and I just size them up using the control right bracket key, and they size up pretty well. I mean, they look a little bit low quality. They're not obviously meant to be that large. They look a little bit weird, but they work pretty well just for adding that little bit of extra realistic touch. And especially here in Del Sol Valley, where there's so many cars just parked at houses or on the street, and there's even those boats and like camper trailers. And I really wish we would have got those included in the debug menu at least, because that would have been so amazing to include in most houses, just to add so much extra detail to garages or to driveways and anywhere actually, because I just think they're really cool. But unfortunately those weren't included. They have been liberated if you don't mind having CC in your game, so you could download them and add them if you would like to, but unfortunately they didn't actually come with Get Famous, and I wish they would have. But either way, we do have those statues that you'll see me size up here in just a moment. But here I am creating the parking spaces, and I just used this really small low-lying fence to act as the paint that separate the spaces, and that works pretty well. And then here I'm just sizing up one of those trucks that I was talking about, and I just kind of looked at the one that was next to it to make sure it was a reasonable size. And I did have to move the building because there really wasn't enough space for it, so I have to just shuffle everything over just slightly, but that's no big deal, and it just works pretty well. I didn't end up filling every spot with a vehicle, just a couple, because I felt like that looked a little bit nicer. And then I actually ended up sizing another car and putting it right underneath that awning to make it look like somebody is in there quickly checking in. And then I put one next to the pool as well, thinking that it was somebody driving through. So you'll see that in just a little while. But at this point, I really wasn't sure how big I was gonna make this motel. I thought about leaving it this size and then building something else on the rest of the lot. But what I end up doing is actually just mirroring over the part that I've already built. And I think that looks really cool, and I feel like it makes it look more like a motel. At least I think so anyways. And then on that part of the building, I end up including the bar like I was talking about. There's also a laundromat, which I think is a lot of fun and definitely could add to more of the storytelling, especially if you have to stay here for a long time. You may want your sim to do some laundry just to add that bit of realism. But keep in mind, since there's so many sims visiting the lot, the laundry might pile up with them changing going into the pool. And that's why I decided not to include any, because I thought it would get kind of messy. And thankfully, laundry didn't pile up because of the washer and dryers either, because I was kind of worried about that. But thankfully, since there's no laundry hampers, there was none collecting on the lot, because yeah, that would have become a huge mess. But thankfully it didn't. But over here, you'll see me messing with the layout. This corner kind of gave me some trouble, but I think in the end it worked out pretty well. I thought about including some closets, but I do end up getting rid of them to make some of the bathrooms a little bit bigger. And then I thought about making a part of the building that jetted out here in the back to make another bathroom a little bit bigger, but it seemed to all come together pretty nicely. And all of these rooms are kind of like the regular rooms, and then there's 4 suites, which I thought was kind of fun to include because I had these really huge rooms that are above the lobbies, and they worked out really nicely to put kind of more grander bathrooms and a living space. I even put a toddler bed in a couple of them, that way your toddlers can come stay here. And over by the pool, there is a couple of toddler swimming pools. I thought about including the slide next to the pool, but it kind of looked a little bit out of place, so I decided not to include that in the end. But if you wanted to run this as a park, if you include the toddler slide, then it has all of the requirements to function as a park too. So I thought that was kind of nice. But here in the back, I wasn't really sure if I was going to include any more balconies, but I'm so happy that I did, because if you're in the back alley and looking at the building from that angle, it just looks really nice. I just like the effect, so I was pretty happy with that. And then I do end up putting a couple of benches, but it kind of made the balconies not that functional. So what I end up doing is putting some chess tables back there. It may not be that realistic to have chess tables all over the motel, but I thought it was better than having a bunch of benches that weren't really that usable. So that's what I was thinking. And then here is where I fence in the pool area. And originally I was going to go with this fence, which I do like, but I felt like the texture on it was a little bit too busy, how you could see through it. That's what I was thinking anyway, so I do end up switching it out for a different one that's in the Spanish style, that's a solid stucco material. And I felt like that just looked a little bit nicer. And then I also put some dining tables around. I do end up keeping these same ones, but I switched them out for a different color that I thought looked a little bit nicer. And then I also end up making the pool area a little bit bigger, because this was just a little bit too small, especially once I decided to make the hotel bigger. It made a lot more sense, and I think it looks really nice. But here I'm adding some palm trees, and then I do start with the landscaping here in just a moment. And I love the landscaping on this build. I was really trying to think back to the way I've seen motels in California decorated. Since this world of Del Sol Valley is supposed to kind of be like Los Angeles, I was trying to think of ones that I've seen, and they all seem to have these flower beds that have really lush greenery, maybe some cactus and flowers and some tropical plants. So that's what I tried to do here, and I really tried to not overdo it because I feel like with community lots you wouldn't necessarily have a whole lot of landscaping, but I feel like it's just enough to make it feel kind of lush, and I had a lot of fun with it anyways. But here I am switching up that fence, and I feel like this one just looks so much better, and I like that it's in that Spanish style because I feel like it just ties in nicely with this whole theme that we got going on here in Del Sol Valley. But here's another flower bed, and I just absolutely love it. I love those pink flowers so much. I do use them a lot, but they're some of my favorites, and I think they size up so nicely. They just look so full, and I love the pink flowers on them. I think they're just really pretty. And then back here I do another flower bed where I put a couple of palm trees and just a little bit of plants in here. And then I also put some palm trees along the side. I was trying to blend it in with the world, so on the opposite side I do some of those really tall trees. I'm not exactly sure what they're supposed to be, maybe poplar trees? I'm not exactly sure if they're supposed to be those, but that's kind of what they look like. And then over here I have a couple more flower beds, and I just continue with the same landscaping, the mixture of the greenery, the pink flowers, and then a little bit of cactus, which I absolutely love this combination. It's so much fun. This is one of my favorite worlds to do landscaping in, and it's probably because I live in a similar area, and yeah, it just makes it feel more like home, and I just love that. But here I did pull out a couple of food stands, and I wasn't exactly sure where I was going to put those. I thought about putting them in the front, but I thought that would look a little bit silly. So what I decided to do is build these little rooms, and I was really happy that they work because I wasn't sure if the half wall was going to block the Sims from going up and ordering and taking the food, but everything seemed to work totally as it should, and I was really pleased with that because it looks like it's more built into the hotel that way, and it makes it feel like people are actually working here, which I really like. And hopefully we will get functioning motels eventually, and I think it would be kind of fun to run one. And since I have these larger, more suite rooms, you could probably live on the hotel lot. I'm not sure if you could do that with the way the game is right now. Maybe if you ran it as a restaurant, then maybe you could pretend that you ran the hotel, but I'm not sure exactly how that would work. So I guess you could play around with it if you decide to download this lot. So here is when I decided that it would look better if the hotel was a little bit bigger, and I probably could have used the room copy tool to copy over the part that I already built, but I decided to do it this way for whatever reason, so it looks a little bit weird. I'm kind of building it in a little bit of a weird way, but I think I mirror it over exactly, and I think it looks really good. I like this shape of the hotel a lot. I feel like it's a really realistic shape for a motel. At least I think so. I don't know, I was kind of indecisive and kind of unsure about myself. So you'll notice me twisting around the camera a lot and kind of like checking it from different angles, which I always do when I'm unsure about a build. I notice I twist around the camera a lot more. So I tried to cut some of it out because it does get a little bit hard to watch when you're kind of spinning all over the place. I didn't want anybody to get dizzy, but hopefully I caught all of the all of the parts that were too bad anyways. And at this point, I really wasn't sure what I was going to include underneath of these two rooms, because on the other side is where I have the lobby entry, and I didn't think I should have another lobby area. I thought that would be a little bit too repetitive, and I was thinking about making the entire floor a laundromat, which I'm so happy that I didn't, because that probably would have been way too big. And so what I end up doing is splitting it into another room for one of those food stalls and then a tiny room for the laundromat, which I think is plenty big enough, and I think it looks really good. So I kind of had fun playing around with that idea. And then the rest of it is the bar area, and I wanted to include some activities in there, which may not be that realistic for this type of motel to have such a social hangout area, but oh well, it's what I decided to do. There's the foosball table and then some darts in there because I thought that'd be kind of fun. And then I also put a jukebox in there, which I ended up getting rid of before I took the screenshots, because as I was playtesting it, it just took up so much space and it was kind of blocking the Sims from doing other things. So you'll notice in the screenshots that that's a little bit different. But here I'm just adding some modern windows in the back, and I put some awnings above it, and I think that looks really good. But that's the basic shape of the hotel, and I hope you guys do like it, because like I mentioned, I've never built anything like this before, so I was a little bit unsure and kind of unconfident in the way it was coming together, but I do really like it. But there I just copied over that food stall room, and I think I end up switching out that one to be some Mexican food, and then the other one's American food, because I felt like those were probably the two most common types of food you may find in a motel like this in this particular world. So that's what I ended up doing. And then over here I'm creating another flower bed and the same type of landscaping that I did before, and I think this is pretty much it for the landscaping. I may add yeah, I think one other flower bed on the other side of the entryway to the bar. And then here I'm just making the pool area just a little bit bigger, and I think this is the final shape of it. I do make the pool just a tiny bit smaller so I can make more room for a few different activities, but I wanted it to look like the road kind of continued around the building. So these are like driveways, that's what I was thinking. So that's why I ended up putting a car in the front, because I felt like it made it feel more like they were driveways or roads or whatever you want to call them, kind of part of the parking lot. And then here next to the pool, I do place some yoga mats, and I wanted them to look like they were beach towels that your Sims would lay on and do some sun tanning. But if you want to, your Sims can do some yoga. And then over here I create some lounge chairs. Unfortunately, we still don't have actual lounge chairs in the game, so you have to make your own. But I paired these ottomans that came with Spa Day with these chairs that came with Seasons, and I think they look pretty good. They kind of look like those like Adirondack lounge chairs that you might see poolside, so I thought that was really cool. And then over here I'm just switching out these umbrella tables to be this different color. I felt like this just worked a little bit nicer, and then paired with these chairs, I felt like they just kind of matched the lounge chairs a little bit nicer. I was trying to do this bright color scheme with the red chairs and then the blue umbrellas, and I do like that idea. I just don't think it worked necessarily for this build, so I decided to switch them out. And then here I wanted to add some umbrellas next to these lounge chairs, and I thought about using these ones that came with Seasons, but I decided to go with these base game ones, and I thought those looked really nice. And then here I'm switching out this food stall to be the Mexican food, and then I also go through and add some awnings because I thought they looked a little bit weird, and I felt like these awnings worked pretty nicely to cover up the kind of weird empty space above the food stalls. And here I am finally moving on to decorating the interior to the motel. So I start off by decorating these bedrooms. I do go back to the pool later on and add a few other decorations and some kiddie pools and things like that. But for these hotel rooms, I really wanted to go for that mid-century, out-of-date, really retro style. So I used a lot of the furniture that came with Get Famous, and I think it looks really cool. It is, of course, pretty plainly decorated since it is a motel. There's not a whole lot of clutter or personal decoration items, but all of the hotel rooms do have a bathroom. They do have some sort of dresser, side table, a bed, a TV, and some flowers, and then a few decorations like some towels. And then I think they all have like a clock and a painting on the wall. So they do basically all look the same. They do all have different color schemes though, which I thought was a lot of fun. So it kind of took me a while to get this first one sorted out, but this room ends up having a blue color scheme with I think hints of yellow. When I bring the curtains and stuff in anyways, you will see that. But this is actually one of the rooms that I end up switching out to be 2 single twin beds in the end, because once I started decorating the rooms, they all had double beds. And then I was thinking, what if you had like a couple kids with you? You may want to have them have their own room that has a couple of twin beds in there. And then that's why I ended up adding a couple of toddler beds in some of the other rooms later on. But depending on which room you want to stay in, you may want to have your own toddler bed, which the ones that came with the update right before Jungle Adventure, you can actually put those in your Sims inventory and carry them with you. So you could bring those along if you would like to. And I'm just now realizing that I didn't include any toddler potties, so I'll definitely put a couple in this build before I upload it to the gallery, because that might cause some problems if you decide to bring your toddler Sims here. But I did include some pet food bowls and 1 litter box. You could definitely bring your pets here if you would like to, and they should have everything that they need. And I actually played around with some of the lot traits, and I played around with the one that has random Sims show up with their dogs, and that was a lot of fun because there was just dogs swimming in the pool, and it just made it feel that much more lively and a lot of fun. So you could definitely do that or use whatever lot traits that you would like to have. And then here I'm just switching up some of the windows. I was kind of having a bit of trouble with the curtains. I really like these Seasons curtains, and they're the ones that I end up going with throughout most of the build. But here I was trying to use some of the My First Pet Stuff curtains and trying to layer them, but I ended up not using them and just putting double windows here, so these curtains looked a little bit better here in the front. And I think that looks pretty nice. And something I should mention, I did use the room copy tool to copy over all of these rooms up to the 2nd story. So all of them are basically the same, so I don't show them in this video, and I just switch over the colors. So they basically look the same, just different color schemes. And something I did have to change in this room in particular, the archway, I do make it a little bit bigger into the bathroom because I ended up blocking the shower with the toilet. And thankfully I did playtest this bathroom, so I realized it didn't work, and then I swap over where the counters are to the other side of the wall, so it's just a tiny bit different. But yeah, basically looks the same. But thankfully I playtested it, and I think I playtested everything that was necessary for this build to function. I may have missed something because it is a pretty big lot, but everything seemed to work pretty good to me. So hopefully if you decide to download this, everything will work good for you too. Just make sure to have move objects on. Even though I didn't really use it too much in this build, it's definitely a good idea to always turn that on no matter what you're downloading from the gallery. But here's going to be the pink room. Now, something I had a lot of fun with while decorating these rooms was matching the bathroom countertops to the color scheme of the bedroom. And I also tried to match like the towels and stuff, but it just felt so fun and quirky, so I really enjoyed that a lot. And this pink bedroom is where I end up including the litter box. So if you have a cat, you might want to stay in this room. Maybe I'll include one other litter box before I upload this to the gallery, because I definitely want it to be like a good place for you to bring every member of the family. So yeah, I will make sure to do that. And then over here, I'm just picking out another table or dresser to put over here. Same thing, another TV, some of these flowers that came with Get Famous. Pretty much all of the furniture and decorations in these bedrooms came with the Get Famous expansion pack. There's a few things that came with other packs like the curtains or seasons, and then the clock that I use on the walls came with bowling stuff. But the stuff from bowling stuff works perfectly with the Get Famous items because they all have that mid-century style. And I think the bar that I used in the bar area also came from bowling stuff. But if you don't have a whole lot of packs, don't worry. If you have the Get Famous expansion pack, the build should pretty much look just as the way I'm decorated in my game, because that's definitely the most important pack. But this is the last room that I'm showing here on the first floor. But like I mentioned, I do copy over everything exactly and just switch up the colors. You will see it as we fly around, and then when I switch out some of the rooms to have a couple of twin beds, you'll see some of the recolorings as well. But I think they're all a lot of fun, and I love all of the different colors. I think it's just a nice variety. And then here I'm decorating the first suite room, and I really like the way these rooms come together. I think they're so grand and kind of a bit of fun, but the same thing as the other rooms, I don't show all of them being decorated because there's 4 of them, and I use the room copy tool to copy over the rooms and then switch up the colors. And this room ends up having like a blue and goldish yellow color scheme, if I remember correctly, kind of similar to the first room. And each of these suite rooms have a double bed, they have a couple walk-in closets, they have sort of a living room area with a couple of couches, a nicer TV than the other rooms, and there's also like an entryway to the room, which I thought was kind of grand and made the rooms a little bit more special. They also have larger bathrooms with jacuzzi tubs, a stand-up shower, and then there's a separate area for the sink. And then I also put this bench down that came with bowling stuff, I believe, and I thought that was kind of fun. And then in the entryway, I just put a side table, another one of these clocks, and I think a mirror is what I end up adding later on, and I think that looks pretty good. But here I'm just messing with the windows. I wanted to make sure they were all at the same level and looked good throughout the entire build. So I go through and do that really quickly. And then here I'm using some more of those seasons curtains. I thought about using some different curtains for a moment, but I decided to go back to these ones because I felt like it just made the whole build feel a little bit more cohesive and it all matched a little bit better. So I thought that was a little bit nicer. And then here I'm going through and switching out some of these double beds for some twin beds, just to kind of make the rooms have a bit more variety and a little bit easier spots for Sims who aren't couples to stay in the same room or kids to stay in a room too. And then I'm also messing with this toddler bed. I got this idea from the last renovation that I did in Selva Dorada because one of the rooms in the original build had a toddler bed at the foot of the double bed, but I don't end up keeping it in this room because I felt like the colors didn't really work, but the other 2 suites, I get it to work in those ones. So you'll see a toddler bed in those. And then here is the bathroom, jacuzzi tub, stand-up shower. All of this bathroom stuff I believe came with Get Famous because it of course worked for the style that I was going for. And then there I'm just placing a mirror in the entryway and a rug, and then that's pretty much it for the suite room. So here I am, you'll see me copying over this room and then switching up all of the colors. So this is on the opposite side of the building, and I'm just switching up all the colors. This room ends up having a greenish color scheme to it, which I thought was fun. And then there you can see the toddler bed at the foot of the bed. So this is pretty much how I recolored all of the rooms. So I kind of go through it a little bit fast, and I think it looks pretty good though. So hopefully you guys will like it. And then down here is going to be the lobby area. So this is like the entryway to the hotel. So this is where you would check in and get your room and all that kind of stuff. But here first I am placing a couple of bathrooms. So you could use the bathrooms in the hotel rooms, but I wanted there to be some other ones on the build. That way, if you're not staying in a room or whoever works here could use the bathrooms, I felt like it just made a little bit more sense. So that's what I decided to do. And there's just 3 stalls in there. It's pretty simply decorated, but it looks more like a community bathroom. It has the soap dispensers and then those hand towels in the dispenser as well. So I thought that was kind of nice. And then here I wanted to add a proper like reception desk, I guess we could call it. So I just use these counters and kind of make this wraparound counter area, which I think looks really good. And then I put some cash registers on the counter because I felt like it made it look more like a check-in area. You could put computers there if you would like to, but I decided the cash registers would be better because your Sims don't interact with them, and that way random Sims just aren't behind the counter. But if you like that, you could definitely put some computers there, and it may make it feel like there's more employees at the hotel. So that's definitely a possibility. But over here, I wanted to create kind of a breakfast bar because I definitely feel like that's really realistic to have some complimentary breakfast for your hotel stay, maybe some muffins or bagels or whatever. But like I mentioned earlier, I just put a microwave and a coffee pot over there and a couple different decorations. And then here I'm just hanging up some curtains. I also put some like salt and pepper decorations on top of each of the tables. But I loved using these chairs that came with Get Famous in this like burnt brownish orange color. I really liked that color a lot, so I thought that looked nice in here. And then I'm just switching up some of the wallpapers to add a bit more color, and then I placed that bulletin board up there behind the counter, and I thought that was really cool because it looks like there's a bunch of stuff pinned to it, so maybe different activities or maybe places for rent, or I don't know, somebody's having a yard sale or whatever they're advertising, so I thought that was a bit of fun. And then here I'm picking out a poster or a painting to put on the wall. I end up placing a couple of the movie posters that came with Get Famous in here because I thought that was kind of fun. Maybe the movies were filmed around here or at the hotel. I thought that was kind of a fun idea, so I picked out a couple to put in here. Then I also placed some inside the laundromat and inside the bar as well because I thought that just looked really good. And then this is pretty much it for the lobby area. There's a few decorations on the counters, but not too much. And then over here is where I create the bar and the laundromat. So I have those little like ATM machines, which I don't think I've ever used in a build, but I thought they would be perfect inside the laundromat because you'd probably have to get some coins to run the washer and dryer. And actually with the Laundry Day stuff pack, there is a swatch of the washer and dryers that have coin slots on them. So that works perfectly for a laundromat. So I was really happy about that because I've used those before in that swatch, but I think it was like by accident. I thought they were just plain white ones and then realized later on that they had spots for you to put your coins in. So I definitely had to use them in here. I was thinking about doing this pastel color scheme, which I think would have looked really cute, but I decided to switch it out for those ones because it definitely made the most sense. And then I do put a couple of chairs in here, and then I put a table in the middle where you could stand and fold your clothes because I thought that looked really good. I definitely got a lot of really good ideas because I want to build another one in San Myshuno because not all of the apartments in my save file will have, their sirens are so loud, can you guys hear those? But not all of the apartments in my save file will have washer and dryer, so I want the ability for you guys for storytelling or for realistic purposes to be able to go somewhere and do your laundry, and I think that would be a lot of fun. I think I'll mix it with some other lot type, like probably a restaurant or a cafe or something. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put it. I'm trying to figure out what exactly I'm going to do with the community lots in San Myshuno because I definitely still have a lot of community lots to build for my save, so I'm trying to get some of them worked out. So if you notice an abundance of community lots coming to the channel, that's because I'm trying to get a lot of them sorted out for my save. So this is one of them, and we will have a lot more to come. But here I am moving on to the bar area, and I really like the way this came together. It's pretty simply decorated, but I feel like if this type of motel had a social hangout area, this is kind of what it would look like. And I used this soda fountain bar that came with the bowling stuff because it definitely suited this retro styled theme that I was going for, and then I wanted there to be a couple activities in here, so it's a bit crowded, and that's why I ended up getting rid of the jukebox, but everything seemed to work just fine in the end. And I do add a couple of wall speakers throughout this build, one in here and then one in the entryway, so there is some music if you want just to have some playing, or you want your Sims to dance, or for whatever reason you would like to have it. And then back here on the counter, I do have some bottles, which I thought was kind of a nice decoration. And then I wanted to add this street sign. It kind of looks like something you might find at a bus stop. It has like a map of the city anyways on it, so I thought that looked really cool. And then placing some movie posters in here, and then I also end up switching up the counter behind the bar because I wanted to add some decorations, but I didn't want to add like a bunch of clutter items, so I do end up adding some tall cabinets on either side of the counters. You'll see what I mean here in just a moment, but I felt like that looked the best. And I also switched out the color to be this green color, which is probably kind of a gross color, and I don't think I would normally use this, but for this build I felt like it works. And then just hanging up some blinds, and then that's pretty much it for that area. But here we are back to the pool, and I Wanted to add some more activities, especially for toddlers, so I placed a couple of toddler pools over here. I wish they could go in the actual pool with their like parents and wear some floaties or something. I think that would be so cute. I would actually like to see more activities for swimming pools. I think that would be a really nice addition to the game. Like if they could play volleyball in the water or have like floaties that they could lay on or different little things like that, or maybe play like Marco Polo or different activities. I think that would be really nice. But we'll see what happens. But I definitely think that would be a nice addition to the game, especially if toddlers could go in the pool. That would be unbelievable. But here is adding some benches to the back alley. Wanted it to look like your Sims could wait for a ride or whatever over there. And then here I do go on to the interior and add some pet food bowls, because like I said, I did want to make it pet friendly, and I will add some toddler potties before I upload this to the gallery. That way everybody has everything they should need, at least hopefully I didn't miss anything. But this is pretty much it for the build. I do go through and add some chess tables to the back balcony just to add a little bit more activities, and then we are already on to the screenshot. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this build. I know it was a bit different, but I think it was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys did enjoy it. But definitely let me know what you guys think, and the link for the download will of course be in the description if you guys would like to play in this build. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and please leave any comments or suggestions that you have, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!
I've been holding on, I wouldn't let you go, 'cause every time I try you find a loophole. I've been slamming the door and just leave you cold. When I come back you've heated up the South Pole. You see my body rush for the escape, while my heart wants to stay. Where to push or